So here on Off the Ball, we're really interested in empowering women to get involved in sport, and particularly when we hear that they face barriers getting involved, we're always interested. So our interest was really piqued when we heard about a group in Cork called the Sanctuary Runners, and to tell us a little bit about it is Graham Clifford. Graham, welcome to Off the Bench.
Thank you very much, Cliona. Thank you for having me.
Delighted to have you, particularly because you're involved in such an interesting project, which is one that, as we feel, is empowering women. So can you tell us why you set up Sanctuary Runners and what it is?
Yeah, well, I suppose as I work as a journalist, Cliona, and as a broadcaster as well, over the years, I would have travelled a lot to places in the world where there were refugee crises and visited refugee camps in North Africa, travelled across Central and Eastern Europe with refugees at the height of the migrant crisis. And then I would have reported a lot for both print and broadcast media on direct provision in Ireland. And I always felt that there was a disconnect, I suppose, Cliona, between Irish society and those in direct provision, and a lack of understanding of where the people in direct provision came from, what they were going through, why they were here, and that kind of thing. And vice versa, maybe a bit of an uneasiness and a suspicion amongst those in direct provision about how they would be received by those in the Irish community. So you had people living in parallel lives, parallel communities rather. So I was running one day myself, Cliona, down in Waterford in the John Tracy race down there in Dungarvan. Brilliant race, by the way.
Yeah, it's a big annual race down there, yeah.
That's right, it's fantastic. Every time you want a hill, one just magically appears. It's incredible. But as I was running, I kind of thought, you know something, why don't I combine two of my big interests now, I suppose, one running and the other, trying to find something to enable Irish people to get to meet up with, get to know, get to befriend people in direct provision. And that's where it came from. And, from the very start, it's something which has really taken off and been so well received by both people in direct provision and Irish people as well, Cliona.
And before we go into how it works and the idea, what your partnership wants to do, could you just briefly tell our listeners a little bit about direct provision and, if you like, the restrictions that it puts on its residents?
Well, direct provision has been going in Ireland now for 18 years, and we have 30-odd different centres across the country. So when you come into the country from a non-EU state and you want to claim asylum, your application will start as soon as you request asylum, and asylum seekers then will be moved to a direct provision centre around the country. You have different centres which cater for, different sectors of society. Like you have some that would mainly have, we'll say, single men. You have some that have families and so on. And when you're in direct provision, you get an allowance of €21.60 a week.
Yeah.
Now, you do get food. Now, the food is the same food for everybody, so it doesn't matter whether you come from Sierra Leone or Kuwait or Venezuela. You eat what's made, and often that can be a problem because the foods, obviously, that suit one country are very different to another.
Yeah.
You can't work in de facto. Now, of course, that has changed this year in the sense that the government have put through legislation where somebody will be allowed work, but there are huge restrictions on that. Yeah. So you can only work if the job you get gives you €30,000 a year starting off now. I don't know many jobs that do that.
No.
And also there's about 70 different careers that you wouldn't be allowed.
And children's education is covered as well, isn't it?
Sorry, education. Well, education is at primary and secondary level.
Right.
But to go to third level, for example, there is no state provision for that. Different universities have put together bursaries and scholarship programs, but there's no state provision for a continuation of education.
All right. And within the direct provision system, and there's been so much criticism of it, the length of time people are there before their cases go through, as you said, the inadequacy of it to deal with people from different religions and from different countries and different diets and everything else. Are there any sporting facilities, or is there any access to sports clubs or gyms for people who live in direct provision?
It would be very ad hoc. It would be something that groups within various communities would initiate Of course, you've a transient population often, Cliona, so people do move on when their status changes. They might get leave to stay, and they would stay in that same area, or they could move to another centre, or they could be deported. So in terms of a system of providing supporting facilities, it's very ad hoc, and it completely varies from centre to centre from what I can see.
So the idea of sanctuary runners, tell us how is it working, and what are you hoping to do with it? And I think specifically in relation to the Cork City Marathon, which is coming up on June the 3rd.
Yeah, well, Cork City is bidding to become a city of sanctuary. So to get that status, you need to show that you're a welcoming city, that you have pillars in place to welcome everybody who's in the city, whether you're an Irish person living there all your life, or you're somebody who's come to a direct provision centre and you're waiting for your application to be processed. So I knew that if I packaged it correctly and I went to Cork City Council, that it would be something they would be interested in, and they were. So basically, as I said at the start, what I've really tried to do is use something like running and this specific marathon to build a bridge that allows Irish people to run alongside and in solidarity with people in direct provision. I mean, the running and the marathon are fantastic because, obviously, you know, sport is so positive in terms of its mental and physical health benefits for people in direct provision, and my God, do they need it. Yeah. But it's a vehicle really for something else, and that something else is people sharing their stories, running side by side. You know, they're training together every week, a few times a week. So Irish people and people in direct provision, I've put them on the same relay teams and stuff like this. So over time, they get to share their stories. You know, they're not sitting down being questioned, but organically and naturally they talk.
We all talk when we're running, and if you're running shoulder to shoulder with somebody, it is a great place for talking out things, isn't it?
It is, and some of the women in particular who are sanctuary runners this year, a lot of them will have been through rather, you know, really difficult situations. And they won't have felt comfortable enough to talk to people about it. But you could have a mother of 3 from Pakistan running alongside a mother of 3 from Kinsale, you know. And as they're running along, as they get to know each other, like friends do, they share things. And I think by sharing things like that, when you're in direct provision, the positive impact of that is huge. I mean, we see it every week. We see the transformation in people. It's remarkable. Have
you already? Tell us about that transformation. And first of all, before we do that, maybe tell me, you made contact with direct provision centres. You offered the chance to come and run and train with people who are already going to be running. And what was the take-up from residents in direct provision?
It was really interesting in terms of the gender divide. So we put up posters at 5 direct provision centres in Cork, 2 in Cork City and 3 in Cork County. So the 3 in Cork County are in Mill Street, in Clonmacilty and in Glantown, just outside the city as well. Right. And the men were much more confident of their sporting ability, so they put the names down, no bother. They all wanted to do the full marathon, so I had to go, lads, have you run a marathon before? No. Okay. How far can you run? And bit by bit, you know, the distance that they were going to run was reduced. It was the opposite for the women who came forward. They were more hesitant in a sense, and I think they were less confident about how far they could run, how fit they were. Right. But over time, it's the women who have progressed more quickly. The women who have thrown themselves into it more. The women who get the full benefit, I think, of the social side of it. And when I turn up at training, which I'll do tonight, which we do 3 nights a week, the women will be the first ones ready for the bus to go training. They've really embraced it.
Really, that's interesting. And in terms of numbers, how many people did you get who are interested? And is there, again, what's the gender split in that?
Well, the focus was getting Irish people in particular running in solidarity with those in direct provision. So it wasn't necessarily just getting people in direct provision to run, even though that in itself, you know, would be a very good thing to do. But for sustainability, I thought I want Irish people
to partner them.
Yeah, exactly. To be proactive, because how else do you do it? Unless you go on a march, and a lot of people don't like doing that. unless you get politically active, what else can you do to show your solidarity with somebody who's here after having a difficult time and is seeking asylum?
Yeah.
There isn't really an outlet.
No.
So I was really eager to get the farmers and the doctors and the nurses and the journalists and the IT personnel, to do this, to do something, to come out of their comfort zone and do something they haven't done before.
Yeah.
So we've 150 Irish people who've signed up. Brilliant. And we have 50 people from direct provision. So it's a good split, I think.
Great, yeah.
Karina.
And of that 50 from direct provision, would you have, what's the split in male, female? Are there many women there?
There's 19 women, and the rest are men.
Good.
So I think it's not a bad representative amount, considering a lot of the mothers who would be in direct provision here would be single mothers or be on their own.
And we as I said, we're a Women in Sport podcast, so we're always interested in what's their experience. Were some of them runners? Had any of them played sport before? Did you find out anything about their sporting lives, or what have you discovered about their lives before this?
Yeah, I mean, as you're running along, inevitably the question comes up, so, were you sporty at home or what were you involved in?
Yeah.
There's two women in particular that stand out. A girl called Busi from Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. And she was really into netball before she left home. So I'm going to try and see if there's a way of getting her to train with a netball side down here in Cork. Another lady, and this happened, the things that happen unintentionally during the course of this initiative have been hilarious, really. Like, we were getting ready to train the other night, and there was a lady there, and a Eritrean lady. Now, she's Muslim, so she won't run in the race, but she's trained up to the start of Ramadan with us. She'll be wearing her sanctuary runner's top on the day, cheering us on, and after sunset, she'll be able to come and have some food and drink with us to, water or whatever, to celebrate the day. But a few guys were playing football. Football ended up rolling over near her, and she kicked it back with such force and accuracy. Everybody just stopped what they were doing. So I went over to her and I said, Zuhur, what, did you play football before?
You've got to play before.
Yeah. And she said, oh, yeah, I played quite a lot of football. So immediately your first thought is, well, you should be training with a ladies football club.
How can we connect her with a club? Absolutely. Wouldn't that be fantastic? And that's an opportunity she might never have got without coming to Sanctuary Runners, which is brilliant.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, 100%. And her eyes lit up, and that's something we're going to do as well. So,
you're going to have to think about the netball one, though, Graham, because netball is a very, very rare thing in the south of Ireland. You won't find many clubs, but you might have to switch it to a basketball club, maybe. Yeah,
there is a
very
club
much
in Cork.
Minority. Is there?
So,
yeah.
There is.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah. And also netball, by the nature of it in Ireland, it's quite a multicultural sport in Ireland as well.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Actually, you mentioned it, and that's the thing that interested me as well, because I'm presuming, coming from where a lot of African refugees or asylum seekers, you may have, and you probably do have, Muslim women. So does their does their clothing, does their religion, does anything hamper how they're involved, or how do they manage it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends where they're from, really. Cliona, we have one young girl, Juria, from Somalia, and she would run, more or less fully covered, except for her face. So it's difficult for her as the weather gets
warmer.
More hot. But as I said, because of Ramadan, she won't run in the race, but she will have trained up to now.
Yeah.
And, she's been able to deal with it. But I think often, whatever it is about the Cork Marathon, on the day, I ran it last year, I was there the year before, it's sweltering on that particular
They have
Sunday.
got some really warm days in the last few years, that's true, yeah.
100%. So I would have been really worried. But no, I guess, we have other Muslim women from other parts of the world where it's been less of a problem. They can wear a T-shirt and tracksuit bottoms.
And do they wear?
Fine.
And you will presumably have women wearing headscarves or wearing some form of
yeah. Oh yeah, we have a few women who would run with their headscarves and so on, but they take less notice of it than we do, I think.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And I wondered that have you heard any stories of them in their native countries having problems being involved in sport, or have you found any different cultural differences? Well,
I think some of the things that have really stood out for them have been, we've had Lizzie Lee, the former, Irish Olympian, and we've had Gillian O'Sullivan, the former world
silver medalist, walker, race walker,
That's right, second in Paris in 2003.
That's right.
And, they've come and they've been brilliant. They've trained with the guys and they've given them their knowledge. And I think it's so empowering for women from countries where, men would have been the focus of sport, that you have these two role models there. Also, on a more local level, one of the running clubs, the Toker Running Club, which is in the direct area of the Kinsale Road Direct Provision Centre in Cork, they've come on board, and it's the women from the club mainly. The men as well, they've been brilliant, but the women have really rolled up their sleeves. They turn up every Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and they go running with the women in the centre. And so the gender just disappears. And I think it's one of those really positive things that when I see it, I kind of look at it and I go, this is something that we don't notice as being unusual. And isn't that great?
Yeah.
Whereas for some of the women from some countries in North Africa in particular and Asia, it's unusual, but they get used to it very quick and they build the friendships with them very quick.
Yeah, and we always talk about that. I mean, athletics is a gender-neutral sport generally in most parts of the world. Women and men are treated exactly the same. They're given the same time on air. So it's actually a very, very equal sport, if you like, in that respect. And actually, Toher AC is Rob and Marion Heffernan. That would be their home club as well. That's brilliant. You've got an athletics club who've actually, their members have come and got involved with you as well, which is absolutely fantastic.
And Rob himself took a training session one evening. He went through, he gave well over an hour with the direct provision guys as well, So
brilliant.
Here you have an Olympic, bronze medalist, a world champion training. It's brilliant. And we've also had the boxer, Gary Spike O'Sullivan. He came and he gave motivational words. Sonia O'Sullivan and Derval O'Rourke have sent messages of support. And we have Tomas O'Shea, the former Kerry Grayson Sunday Game pundit now, I suppose. He's running one of the legs with us. So he's running in a team with a man from Afghanistan who's also running. So, this is what it's all about, breaking down any barriers, getting on with it, getting people together, sport being the great equaliser, let them off, facilitate it, and, the benefits are organic and many.
You obviously feel yourself that sport is an agent of social change and integration, and we've seen the same with there's an FAI project, I think, in with the Syrian refugees in Ballydoreen at the moment as well, isn't there? Is there a potential for sanctuary runners to be expanded more, and do you think it could go further than this Cork City Marathon?
I would really hope so, Cliona. I've had calls from people in Dublin, in Kildare, in Laois and in Kerry so far asking, how did you do that again? How can we tap into that? So I think, you could have this all over the country. Why not? Anywhere where there is a direct provision centre. I think you just need buy-in from the local authorities, the local council. One of the things that I've been quite eager to do here is to make it about solidarity and not charity. So we get people saying, can I donate to this? And I go, absolutely not. Because the minute you start doing that, I think it changes its focus. Yeah. So you do need support. You do need sponsorship from the likes of a council or a philanthropic trust or something like that. The HSE, for example, have helped us as well, and UCC. But once you can set those things in place, there's nobody's going to stop you running with somebody from direct provision.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, all you need is to set up your training regime, get your people on board. You need some transport to bring the guys from the centres to training. And then if you're doing a race, you just need to make sure everybody's running in the same top. Because on Marathon Day in Cork on the 3rd of June this year, it's going to be a really powerful spectacle, I believe, having 200 people, Irish, freckled, blue-eyed, and then people from all over the world running in exactly the same tops as one in solidarity. And it's a simple initiative. It's not complicated. It's about getting people to the start line in the same tops. And, of course, it could be taken up anywhere in the country, and I really hope it is, Cliona. And I'd urge anybody to get in contact with me if they feel that's something they want to do.
Yeah, and you have a Facebook page at Cork Sanctuary Runners, and I just looked at it before I came in. You have people running from Sudan, Burundi, Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Libya, Palestine, Nigeria, Barbados, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Ukraine, Eritrea, Pakistan, Somalia, Ethiopia, Zambia, Cameroon, Kuwait, and obviously Ireland. And that is just an amazing achievement.
And you know, we're learning so much, being part of this, all those countries, even there, learning about people's countries. I mean, knowledge is so important. Knowledge forms the basis of how we set up systems like migration systems or whatever else. And by having that knowledge, and plus compassion, we can do amazing things in this country. We're a small country, but we're a wealthy country.
Yeah, and we are. And knowledge is it's how you beat racism as well. We always say too, running is such a democratic activity. You don't need a lot of money. You need runners, but you really don't need a lot of gear. And again, have you managed to source runners for people? Has somebody helped you with that?
Yes, there's a trust called the Tomar Trust. They're based in Cork, so I approached them and I said, this is what we'd like to do. Initially, I thought, I was hoping to get about 18 or 20 runners from Direct Provision who'd sign up.
Yeah.
But very quickly, we had like 50 signed up. So they funded the running shoes for everybody, so proper running shoes. Fitted by John Buckley Sports in Cork, very well known.
Great, very well known in athletics, yeah.
And they were brilliant. So they came, they fitted everybody, and for some of the women in particular, it was an unusual kind of thing to be fitted for shoes in a running shop. I mean, I think they were, it was very unusual for them. But the guys and the people there handled it so sensitively. It was lovely to watch.
Oh,
and so they made people relax. They got the right shoes. They're giving us running socks. We've got shorts and tops and everything donated by running clubs around Cork. So I think all you have to do with these things, I really believe, Cliona, is once you knock that first domino, Irish people are great, really.
Yeah.
Once you knock that first domino, everybody will come on board and make these kind of things really successful.
What sort of feedback have you got? And I suppose what's the thing that has affected you most when you thought, we've done a good thing here, this is working, or has any story stood out for you or something and you've thought, this is exactly what I wanted?
There's a family of a Nigerian family, a mom and her 4 children in one of the centres, and her baby is only about 10 months old, I think, a little girl. And I think for her, everything was looking terribly bleak. She really wasn't sure about signing up. She was struggling in every sense, and struggling to keep motivated, to get out of bed in the morning, to do the best for her kids. And somebody said to her, look, sign up for this, see how you get on. If it's not for you, you don't have to keep it going. Today, she's the first at training every night. She runs almost every day. I'm at the point where I'm having to tell her, listen, you need to stop running because, you need to keep your energy. You'll get injured, you'll get tired. But she loves it. She's even made friends within the centre itself because she kind of, people do this in Direct Provision. They close down. They try to get through the many months that they're in there in their own way. But she now has gone the opposite way. She has totally changed her perspective. She tells me that, she gets out of bed in the morning. She sleeps better. The kids are happier. She's able to look after her baby better. She's looking at the future in a very different way. She's still realistic that, whatever may happen. But now, she's changed her perception to looking at the now. It's almost like mindfulness, living in the moment.
Yeah.
Then no matter what happens, this is now. So let's make now, healthy and positive and strong. And that's what, so when I look at her, I kind of go, this is working. You can see very clearly that she's benefited so much. But then I look at Irish people as well who came to this with very little knowledge of Direct Provision, and now have the knowledge about the system, who feel a connection with it because they are running alongside people from direct provision. So they formed opinions and so on about direct provision. I never want to politicize this because I feel, you know, you could organize a march or a demonstration, and people have been doing that for 18 years. And I feel, you know, the reality is it hasn't really got anybody anywhere, unfortunately. But if you can humanize the system and show people what the people behind the gates are like and what they're going through, that's much more powerful and much more sustainable. You know, we have 150 Irish runners. They will have 150 families. They will have on average, 5 friends each. They will have workmates. So you're
they'll
raising
have children.
awareness.
They'll have children going to school with children from direct provision. Yeah,
you're raising awareness of the entire situation, and at the same time doing something really healthy, really fun. Life is short. Get on with it. And you know, for everybody who's involved, if you go to a training session of the Sanctuary Runners now, all you hear is laughter. I have never in 18 years seen pictures of people in direct provision. So, you know, you know, when you see pictures of people in direct provision, normally, you know, it's part of an article in a newspaper, and I've done it myself, where they would be very sullen, or maybe their face is not shown, and so on. We've turned that on their head, and we've shown the beauty of people in direct provision, smiling, beaming faces at training sessions, to show that, you know, these are real people with real problems, and the Irish people alongside them are really trying to help. And
physically and mentally, yeah, it has had a huge effect, clearly. And that woman, the Nigerian woman, that's a really interesting story, because one of the statistics they produce is the high levels of depression and possibly even suicidal thoughts in direct provision centres. So we know how physical activity is so empowering, and so, you know, the endorphins, it makes you feel better physically and mentally. So on both sides, there's obviously huge positivity there. It's an amazing project. Graham, how long is it going? When did you start?
I think I started not long. I mean, it was the end of January. I think I had the idea.
Wow.
And then we just got on with it. And we just powered on through, myself and a press photographer in Cork called Claire Kyo. We've really pushed it on. And then every week somebody else comes on board, Cliona, and says, I want to help, what can I do? And so it's been fantastic. My intention was to do it this year and, you know, try to get it over the line. And already I'm being told I don't have a choice. It needs to happen next year.
I bet you are.
We'll see.
Well, listen, Graham, here at Off the Ball, we really, we're always thinking about how can we get women more involved in sport, and we see sport as a form of integration. It's a fun way for people to get to know people. And when we think about Irish people going abroad to work, you know, we think about Irish people going to America and Australia and the Far East, and how they always end up playing GA or whatever it is. That's what sport does. So it is a fantastic idea. Congratulations to yourself and Claire for setting up Sanctuary Runners. We have a little feeling we might be seeing little pockets of it starting up somewhere else around the country over the next few years, and we hope we do. And lastly, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck to everybody who's involved in Sanctuary Runners in the Cork City Marathon on June the 3rd.
Great. Thanks so much, Cliona. Cheers.